Hello there, welcome to the final whistle. I'm Kenzie Benali.
And I'm Steve Forbes.
Well, it was a Hernandez brace that gave the visitors all 3 points this afternoon. A disappointing result, and Dean Hammond and Joe Prince-Wright are back with us to dissect that performance. Dean, let's come to you first. I think the key word here is frustration after that match.
Yeah, frustration and disappointment, Kenzie. I think it's been a tough week. Credit to Watford again. Took the opportunity, took advantage of some mistakes from Southampton, got themselves ahead, and then defended for their lives, which you would do when they're in the position they are in the league. But yeah, just Southampton were a little bit lethargic today. I thought a little bit low on energy, a little bit low on or short on answers or ideas to trying to break down Watford. Got themselves back into the game in that second half, and thinking with Brozier coming on in the second half, a change of shape as well. Kind of went to a 5-3-2, which I kind of understood, with Romeo kind of going into the back three, back four to try and start moves with better possession, better decisions on the ball to try and break that Watford press down, but didn't quite work. And I suppose the only disappointment, it probably took 80 minutes for Ben Foster to make a save in that second half, which is a brilliant save from Shay Adams. So there was opportunities. We got into some reasonable areas, but just not to the standard that Southampton have probably shown this season. I think that's the disappointment. There's no lack of effort, no lack of trying from the players. I don't think you can ever question that, but just not to the standard that they've produced. And you can expect that from a young team, but did the formation work in the first half with the personnel? Potentially not. But individual errors probably cost Southampton today. You look at the first 2 goals, and that's what's cost them the game. So that's where the frustration and disappointment will be, because it was an opportunity today to bounce back from 2 defeats, to get a home victory again, to create the move for the FA Cup next week.
Yeah, Joe, we spoke pre-match about how the change in personnel and the potential change in shape would hopefully freshen things up. It didn't quite work out that way. What was your overall assessment of today's match?
Yeah, it didn't. It seemed like players were just a bit sluggish. There was a lot of loose passes, especially in the first half. I felt a bit sorry for Will Smallbone. He was almost playing up front at times, and that's not really his position. Obviously, he was drifting around in between 2 positions. And Dean kind of summed it up there. A lot of the players looked just a bit jaded and a bit tired. Some of the Saints' best performers this season, Mohamed Salisu, Oyo Romeo, and Stuart Armstrong, all 3 of those guys I thought had really off days, has made some really strange decisions. And I don't know if it's just games catching up with them, with 3 games in a week there. But it was just a really strange performance from start to finish, really. And obviously Ralph rectified it a little bit with the halftime substitution and changed the shape. But like Dean mentioned there, apart from Ward-Prowse's free kick that just went over, and then Shay Adams' header, weren't many opportunities in the second half. So Watford were pretty comfortable in the end to hold on for the win, which for me is the most disappointing part. When Saints got back to 2-1 right on half-time, you thought, okay, here we go. They have some momentum, have some confidence, but never really gained control of the game the way they would have liked to have done. And again, it's another team that's come to St Mary's, let Southampton have the ball. They had over 60% of possession again, just like Newcastle did. And it was a lot of just sideways, backwards passing. And credit to Watford, they defended really well in 2 banks of 5 almost. But it's just really frustrating for Southampton that you felt like they turned the corner and found different ways to break teams down who did sit deep. But we've kind of seen that they've regressed slightly over the last few games. So yeah, disappointment, frustration in the air for sure.
Well, let's dissect the match in a bit more detail now. Dean, we'll begin with that disastrous start. Was it just a lapse in concentration or communication between Salisu and Forster?
I think there was a few errors and details leading up to the goal. I think it starts from Fraser Forster going long to start with from a free kick, I think. And that happened quite a lot today. I thought Southampton were a little bit more direct than normal and didn't try and play through the thirds. And then the ball comes back to Fraser Forster, who plays a short pass to Bednarek, really, and almost gets caught out by Dennis, I think. And then Bednarek's put under pressure and plays a square pass. But behind Salisu onto his right foot, so straight away puts him under pressure on his weaker foot. And then from Salisu, it's just he underhits it, he undercooks the pass, and almost he's trying to set Fraser Forster to come onto the ball to strike it first time, where I think Fraser Forster wants the ball back to him so he's able to have a touch. But the errors there from Bednarek is maybe he could have gone straight back to Fraser Forster instead of going across to Salisu. Understanding that Salisu is left-footed, so appreciating the pass, appreciating your teammate who you're passing it to, and then the quality from Salisu and the understanding that Fraser Forster wants it back. And I also think after that, it was a good reaction from the Watford player to go around Fraser Forster, but Salisu hesitates a little bit and maybe could get back to the line a little bit quicker if I'm honest. And I think that's what me and Joe were mentioning. It was a little bit lethargic. There wasn't quite that energy that Southampton usually play with, and it was very evident in that opening 10 to 15 minutes. There was a couple of crosses that came back that Salisu tried to clear actually with his right foot, and it fell to Watford played, and then Bednarek got a really good block in. So just individual things that you'd expect a little bit more from these players because they played so well this season and performed so well that it's noticeable when they're just not quite on it today. So a collective amount of errors in that goal, and just a disappointing start, because when you give a goal like that to Watford, it gives them hope and it gives them something to hold on to, and then they're going to sit a little bit deeper. And like Joe mentioned, then Southampton could have a lot of possession and it's hard to break them down from that moment on.
Yeah, well, it felt like a collective amount of errors going into the second goal as well. Hernandez obviously bagged a second. Joe, what went wrong with that one for you?
Yeah, again, it was Watford, some clever build-up play, but just being direct. And similar to the cross for Newcastle's goal on Thursday, there wasn't enough pressure on the ball initially for me. It was a good cross to the back post, but then Roman Perot has obviously had to cover over because some of the defenders, Salisu and Bednarek, got dragged over towards the near post to mark the Watford players. So created some space there for Hernandez, and yeah, a really good finish. But even then, I felt like Fraser Forster maybe could have done better with it. It wasn't a rasping shot. It was just a low shot into the corner. But yeah, it was just little lapses defensively, as we said, for the first goal, very similar to the second one, that just Saints just haven't been on it. And it's the same against Newcastle. I know I keep saying that, but it was a very similar performance in the fact that these goals Saints gave to Watford, it wasn't like they really earned them. It wasn't through great play or great skill. It was very much through sloppy defensive errors. And Ralph Hasenhüttl and the side have worked really hard to cut those defensive errors out this season, but they just started to creep in against Villa, Newcastle, and now Watford in this run of 3 straight defeats. It's poor individual errors, especially at the back. And I don't really know where that's come from, because before that, Saints were looking really good and in really good form. So sometimes Dean will tell you football's just like that. It's one moment, one goal you can see just knocks confidence. And seems like Saints are reeling a little bit defensively at the moment, where they can't quite be focused. And even playing balls out the back, there was a lot of loose passes today. So yeah, that second goal really summed up just the haphazard nature of the decision-making for Southampton.
Yeah, well, going forward, Southampton really were struggling to break Watford down in that opening 45 minutes. But the fans were given a little bit of hope, because it did seem like Moy Elianusi's goal on the stroke of half-time was, or could have been, a turning point, Dean.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting here watching it, Steve, and just thinking if Southampton can get a goal from half-time, kind of regroup at half-time, the manager would give his advice and opinion at half-time, maybe make a change like I did, then I think Southampton will come out a different team in the second half. And it's a good finish from Elianusi. I thought Southampton looked dangerous from set pieces today. James Ward-Prowse, his delivery was excellent. Got a few contact. I think Salisu had a header in the first half. We potentially could have done a little bit better. Second half, he had another header where he was stretching. And there was moments in the first half. Kyle Walker-Peters broke down the line on the outside and cut in. And I don't know if he's trying to cross it. He was trying to shoot and trying to beat Ben Foster at the near post. And then again, Kyle Walker-Peters has another strike later on the half, and Ben Foster makes a really, really good save. But it was difficult to break Watford down again defensively. They had their shape, they had their structure, and didn't really come out of areas. And every time Southampton got into positions to cross or try and slide a ball through, there was 2, 3, 4 Watford players covering angles, covering areas, marking the players. So they were very well organised, which you'd expect from a Roy Hodgson team and the work he does on the training ground. But yeah, just a little bit of a lack of imagination. And I think at times, a little bit of fear in the players to maybe try something, you know, a ball round the corner, a flick that may not come off. But when you're confident and everything's going well and you're winning games, you try those things. You try the flick that comes off and it excites a crowd, or you try and take a play on. I just thought at the time, Joe mentioned it, we were a little bit safe. I wouldn't say negative, but safe, where we potentially would go backwards or go sidewards instead of trying to commit someone. And it was only on when actually Shea Adams' header in the second half, when Nathan Redmond actually committed a Watford player and ran at a Watford player. And there wasn't too many players that did that today. So difficult in that first half and difficult actually in the second half, even with a change of shape and personnel.
Well, you mentioned that it was difficult in the second half, Dean. Joe, what was your assessment of Southampton's performance in the second 45? And obviously we had that late VAR check for a penalty too.
Yeah, I think it wasn't much better, to be honest. It was slightly better with Broa and obviously Adams. They kind of gave Watford a few more problems and dragged the defence around, which opened up space for Al-Yunusi and Armstrong to try and get into. But Dean said it before, it's just that risk-taking. There wasn't enough risk for me, or wasn't enough bravery sometimes. And again, you're in a run of losing the last couple of games. It's difficult as a player to all of a sudden turn on the magic and play with loads of confidence when you suffered a few bad results. So it wasn't the kind of the second half that I expected after getting that goal late in the first half. I really did think Saints would come out of a lot of confidence. But again, full credit to Watford, defended well, very organised. And they gave a masterclass in how to run down the clock and go down and really waste some time there. And then on the VAR decision for the handball, I thought it was. When you raise your arms that high in the penalty box, you always run the risk of getting a penalty given against you if the ball does strike your arm. Obviously, it's very close. That was probably what saved Kabasele in the end. That was very close to where Bednarak headed the ball towards goal. But I think it's one of those 50-50 flip of a coin. One, some referees will give it, some won't. So in some ways, Saints a little bit unlucky today. Dean mentioned there the deliveries and set pieces were good. It was just the bounces around the box weren't quite falling Saints' way. The rebounds, they weren't there to finish them off. Salas, who had a couple of headers over, Ward-Prowse just whipped that one just over. So, yes, it's a third straight defeat. But if you look at the table, still 10th in the Premier League table, I think any Saints fan would have taken that heading into the final few months of the campaign. But, yeah, just a bit disappointing.
Well, because of the result, the fans may scrutinise Ralph's decision to change the formation. Dean, do you think that was the deciding factor, or was it more down to individual errors?
Yeah, it's hard to say, Steve, to be honest, because it's easy to say now that we've lost the game that, it was a change of formation or a change of personnel. And that is a factor. It does play in terms of why you didn't get a result or a performance, potentially. But Ralph would have had his reasons for doing that, whether it was because it was playing against Watford or he wanted a change or to approach the game in a different way. But looking at the game now, it potentially didn't work really because you've lost the game. But the reason we lost the game was down to individual errors. I don't think that was anything to do with the shape in terms of the first two goals. But attacking wise, yeah, I think the shape didn't work in that first half. You know, like Joe said, I felt for Will. That is not his natural position. He was almost playing as a second striker. I thought he would play a little bit deeper and try and help the midfield players and dictate possession. But he was trying to play further forward and more as an attacker. And I think there's more suitable players within the group and within the squad to be able to do that. That's nothing against Will, but I think there's players like Adam Armstrong or Nathan Redmond or Brozier that could do that. And then in the second half, again, it wasn't back to the natural shape. It was more of a 3-5-2, really. It was only late on when we went back to the 4-4-2 formation that we caused Watford a few more problems. So you can question it and you can look at it, but I'm sure the manager had his reasons for it, but it just wasn't executed today. And when you lose a game, it's the first thing you'll question because it's something different.
Well, as far as the league table is concerned, as Joe said, despite 3 defeats in a row, Southampton do still stay in 10th position, whilst Watford have boosted their chances of survival. Joe, what's your assessment on how it's looking for both teams moving forward for the remainder of the season?
Yeah, well, of course, Southampton got the big FA Cup quarter-final at home against Manchester City next week. And I just think playing against teams, they still have Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea to come as well. Playing against those teams who are expected to beat Saints, that actually helps Saints play their natural game and gives them a lot more space and time to press high up and catch them out. So I think now it's kind of, you're playing with house money, right? I'm going to say we're safe from relegation. There's a lot of points above the bottom 3 there. So no real worries on that score, which is great. And that's always the aim. But now it's how can you build for next season? How can you build some momentum for Southampton? The cup is huge. I think that's a huge opportunity. Yes, Manchester City are a great team. That's going to take a great individual performance from every single player and then a bit of luck to get through. But you never know what might happen. And Saints are a very good cup team, as I said, because when teams have to go for it, they leave gaps and they take chances, and Saints are really good at exposing that. So I think, between now and the end of the season, Ralph is going to learn a lot about these players and which players maybe for next season he can count on, where he needs to strengthen, perhaps defensively in a few areas. And it's going to be a good learning curve. For Watford, this will do their chances of staying up the world of good. You could see, as Dee mentioned, Roy Hodgson has had time now to settle in to the defensive structure with that team. As soon as they went 1 and 2-0 up, they were happy to sit back and defend and then hit Saints on the counter, and they looked quite dangerous on the counter. So I'd actually feel very confident as a Watford fan going into the final months of the season. They don't have a game now until April, so they have even more time to work on the training ground and perfect that. If you look at the likes of Leeds and Everton and Burnley around them battling away, Watford are dangerous. They've got some dangerous attacking players there. So a big day for them. And for Saints, hopefully they can learn from this and kick on in the final months of the season, I hope.
Yeah, well, it is the FA Cup next for Southampton in a quarter-final tie against Manchester City here at St Mary's. A huge match, Dean.
Yeah, well, a welcome change from the Premier League after 3 defeats and a one-off game, and a brilliant occasion for the club, for the players to be playing Man City in the quarter-final of the FA Cup at St Mary's is perfect for the players. And Joe just said there that, playing against Man City, Southampton always do well, always very competitive against them. 2 draws this season, so Man City have not beaten Southampton. So it'll take hope from that. And I'm sure the players will be really looking forward to it. It's a brilliant occasion. I don't know actually if the semi-finals are still at Wembley, but 1 game away from Wembley if they are. Look, everything to play for. The players will be excited. The build-up during the week will be different because you get the FA Cup build-up, which is always a brilliant experience for the players. So I'm sure they'll be looking forward to it. And I'm sure we'll see that energy, that enthusiasm, and that excitement from the players on the day.
Well, as we've just heard there from Dean, we have drawn twice against Manchester City in the league this season. Joe, can we go one better this time?
It's going to be difficult, Kenzie, but I could see extra time, penalties, something dramatic like that at St Mary's, and then who knows. But it has to be a great team display and some great individual displays. Salisu will have to be back to his best defensively, clearing chances, and then you're going to need Breuer and Adams up top to really hold the ball up and cause City problems in behind. But if I'm honest, Man City, I don't think they're really that focused on the FA Cup. The Premier League title bid is obviously really close. The race with Liverpool, Champions League as well. So they might make a few changes to their lineup. They don't have a lot of defenders to rotate, so that might work in Saints' favour. So I'm trying to stack things up here in Saints' odds where they can get over the line. It's going to be a great occasion. I'm really looking forward to being at St Mary's for it. And part of me feels like this is a good game for Saints to have, to show a reaction, to show, okay, let's kick on now at the end of the season. And I'm sure, as Dean mentioned, the atmosphere will inspire the players and they'll come flying out of the traps against Man City.
Yeah, it should be a great day. Fingers crossed that Man City aren't focused for that one. Dean, Joe, thank you so much for joining us today on Saints Live and on the Final Whistle. Well, it wasn't to be for Southampton this afternoon at St Mary's, a 2-1 defeat to Watford, but attention does now turn to the FA Cup and a huge clash with a place in the semi-finals up for grabs as Southampton take on Manchester City in the quarter-finals. We'll be with you again with another Saints Live. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff for that match, so we'll have a show from 1:45. do enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you then.
Bye for now.